when you come in and a tip is a like, a comment, getting in the chat, sharing the stream out. That is a tip. Okay, that's all we ask. And you know the rules: no droids, no bounty hunters, no Raylos, no Ray nobodies, none of that. We do this for the love of Star Wars. There you go. The fact that there's really nothing going on right now, it's real quiet right now in Star Wars land. Basically, it's kind of, I kind of think the calm before the storm. Andor news is out. It's just, the Bad Batch is going to be out soon. Really, all they've got right now is novels being put out, and the novel about Han and Leia is the one I think that came out this week. And Andre and Stone Loki interviewed Timothy Zahn for Midnight's Edge. If you haven't seen the video, see the video, because it's a very interesting discussion, and the quality of the conversation is much higher with, I think, the older, more established novelists than it has been with the High Republic novelists. I mean, when you go to the Zoom call and that they had, and you're listening to Claudia Gray talk about Iraq Navigator. Hey Justin, or hi just Mike. Hey BC. You've got a rock navigator that doesn't move unless you're not looking at him. The level of writing is shitty. Okay, the talent is shitty. The level of discussion is shitty. And what I mean by that, and I'm using strong language here, but you know me. What I mean by that is, I'm drinking coffee because I'm tired right now. I don't know why, I just am. The level of conversation with somebody like Zahn, somebody like Troy Denning, you name some of the other authors that have graced the EU, is remarkable. Okay, I don't think you're going to get the kind of intellectual discussion that's healthy and good from a Daniel Jose Older. And why? He's an activist. I mean, when you go look at his Wikipedia thing, he's an activist. And no, I'm not Dark Shadow. I'm not. And you're gonna get more. You're gonna get the woke watchwords, more representation. Too many white people. Blackwash the gingers, and the alphabet mafia needs to have representation. That's what you're gonna get from somebody like Older. In his book Last Shot, when you meet Lando Calrissian, I mean, this is the level of writing. He's checking his package out before he goes to a party. I want you guys to just wrap your minds around that. And, basically turning Han into a doubtful father. And it's just, it is cringe. Mike is right. It is cringe. And Older was the one that actually laughed at the stuff they got away with. Okay? He actually thought it was funny. I guarantee you, back in the day, they would not have gotten away with that stuff if Rick McCallum was still helping run things, and if George is running things. This is low rent shit. And they wonder why even people who haven't read a book aren't going to read the book and mock it. Like, I'm not going to read The Scoundrel and the Princess. I'm not. I already know, without even having to read it that it's look, I'm sorry, but after what they did to Han and Leia, I don't want to read any of their shit. And the reason why is because nothing good can come of this. Okay? Nothing. There's nothing to write. Nothing. There's nothing to talk about. Nothing to, okay? And it's a cheap, cynical advertisement for that crummy hotel. Okay? And it's like, no. All right? So I am, where do I go from here? And there's the problem. The problem, when you get right down to it, the lack of talent. Yeah, and you're right, just Mike. You're right. I'm gonna say something that would probably piss off Mark Ruffalo, but I think Marvel is a terrible, terrible franchise. Okay, it has, and I think DC in its current form is too, because they've dumbed down viewing. They've taken comprehension for what you're watching, what you're reading, and turned it into the old readers from the 1950s. See Spot Run. See Dick and Jane. See Spot. See Spot Run. See Dick and Jane Run. That's what it is. And added toilet humor, sexual innuendo, la 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 la. Okay, it's not. I'm not asking for Shakespeare, but I am asking for a little class. You know, I was told once by an angry black feminist that, excuse me, being a lady and having class was racist. That white people started that. Oh, so acting like a gutter slob and talking like a gutter slob and adding gutter language to novels, you know, it, okay, we have to do that because that's not racist. I wonder what Nichelle Nichols would say. I wonder what a lot of like Sidney Poitier would say. What would Denzel Washington say? Okay? But this is the problem. I mean, again, She-Hulk. Now, and this is the weird thing. A friend of mine who's a conservative, he's on my Facebook page. He basically has seen the first episode and liked She-Hulk. But Mr. H Reviews said he was bothered greatly by what he saw because she does everything and masters everything within it, like a day or a week. I can't remember. Mocking, finding out if Steve Rogers is a virgin or not. Like, is that really necessary to the story? These are the questions that you gotta ask. My opinion is the vapid shallowness. First off, Beth Revis, I have never read any of her books, but because of what I know, Hey Lord Thoth, who has been chosen to write for Star Wars. The people that I've seen that are authors for Star Wars, because they're activists, because they're angry, because they're, hey Lord Thoth, they're racists. Look, I'm sorry. No amount of racism well, yeah, just Mike. Everything from how she got to be a She-Hulk to her mastering her powers and all the rest of this shit. She's a Mary Sue. They basically took Rey and turned her into She-Hulk. That's what they did. But back to what I was saying. All these authors, because I know who they are, I've actually had debates with them on Twitter. These authors, why would I trust Beth Revis? She was chosen by the same people that chose Daniel Jose Older. Justina Ireland, who basically repeated that comic book author saying, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. I wasn't going to anyway, but since you said it, thanks. Okay. Claudia Gray, who's obsessed with sexuality. I mean, and these people write for young people. I mean, when I think of the shit that I've seen come out of these authors' mouths and on the pages, like Chuck Wendig. Chuck Wendig is a groomer. He's the first person to put genderless pronouns into one of the Star Wars novels, Z and Zer. It's like, what? But he did. In fact, one of the funniest things I've ever seen is when Abu Nas did a video of him throwing one of his Aftermath novels into the East River, or the Hudson, one or the other, in New York. Wendig had a fit. He had a fucking fit. It's like, look, you disrespected the franchise, okay? It's really interesting, their reactions. They can set fire. I mean, look, Star Wars is Star Wars. It is, to me, to the generation that grew up with it, it may not be as deep as F. Scott Fitzgerald or Jack London, but it deserves respect, the same respect, okay? It deserves the same care, all right? So when one of these authors gets pissed off because his shitty, woke porno franchise book got thrown into the East River, or gets all pissy because someone decided to take their mass market paperback and set it into the fire pit, okay? What they have done to the franchise is far worse than the fans not buying it, than the fans abusing the books, fans abusing, Rose Tico figures, or Vice Admiral Haldo figures. I stuck a Haldo figure, a Funko Pop, in one of Kay's big horsey dumps. And I got a picture of her. I think I took a picture of her looking at it. Like, Mom, what is this? I took a, put the Haldo figure, that the 6-inch black, I put it into the fire pit, and it melted, and it disappeared, like the Wicked Witch. I'm not kidding. I was like, I think there's a video somewhere on here. They get obsessed with that, but they can take something that is a piece of now cultural heritage and absolutely rip it apart. And these are the same people that will call William Shakespeare a dead white guy, and F. Scott Fitzgerald a dead white guy. One of the greatest short stories ever written is called Babylon Revisited, and Fitzgerald wrote it, and it's about this guy going back to this Paris hotel and remembering all the people that he knew. It's a great book. It is a fantastic book. Jack London, To Build a Fire, Call of the Wild, White Fang, Henry Fielding. You could, hey, Irish Metal Warrior, you could go through it. But these guys, these novelists who scoff at classics, the classic writers, from Shakespeare to, probably Isaac Asimov, sit there and shit all over what those writers did and all over what George Lucas did. So who's really the problem? The fan who expected caviar and blinis, austere caviar and blinis and a filet mignon, or the writer who created sexualized left-wing activist propaganda? Who's at fault? When the reader goes, oh my God, this is shit. What did you do to these people? How could you? I mean, who's at fault? All right, this is the problem. And after listening to Timothy Zahn, well, Chuck is a moron. I mean, but this is the problem. They honestly, look, all right, we live in a very narcissistic society right now. And, you know, this Twitter doesn't help. Instead of having a town hall type of discussion that Elon Musk would like it to be, it has turned into a divisive meeting place of a bunch of nihilists and everything else. Like, look, Mike Haney, he's a former head of the CIA, called Republicans. I am not one, but I used to be one. And I'll get there in a second. But thanks, Mike. Basically called voters for Donald Trump and Republicans in general nihilistic. The fuck? Okay. I'm like, how is being anti-abortion, pro-life, what's wrong with protecting innocent life? Pro Second Amendment, defend yourself. Pro faith and religion, and it doesn't matter if you're Christian or Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist. Pro free speech, how is that nihilistic? How? It's not. You want to know what nihilistic is? Open up a book by Claudia Gray, or go and watch those panel interviews that the High Republic authors had. Okay, go and, because there's nothing there. These are hollow men. The kinds of people that T.S. Eliot talked about in his poem, The Hollow Men. And that was called yeah. And my oldest brother and I had a very in-depth conversation about that book, or that poem. And these are rotten, soulless people. They're long gone. Okay, they're people who believe in what they believe in. They don't believe in anything, but go with me here. People who believe in that white man bad, LGBTQ mafia shit, over-sexualizing things for little kids, and being, no racism is fine, is okay, none. And that means if you're black and you say shitty things about white people, if you're, it doesn't matter if you're Latino, Daniel Jose Older, and say shitty things about white men, you're a fucking racist. You are a motherfucking racist, okay? All right? I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. No racism is okay. But they're nihilistic. They're nihilists. It's like looking at several different degrees of Heath Ledger's Joker running around in the literary world, or what's left of it. You know, Michael Caine as Alfred. Some men just want to see the world burn. There you go. Claudia Gray, Justina Ireland, Daniel Jose Older, Kevin Scott, Charles Soule, just want to see the world burn. Pablo Hidalgo, does Beth Rivas? Do I trust her? No, and you shouldn't either. Don't trust her. Okay, she's a professor. She teaches, or an instructor. She teaches creative writing. No, she doesn't have any pronouns in her bio, but I bet you she goddamn will do that if she thinks it'll get her more jobs to shit all over Star Wars. Timothy Zahn he's far older than me. Okay, he's like in his 60s. Okay, he is a much more settled guy. And I'm going to say this, my generation, Generation X, and the boomers, even though boomers are pains in the ass, are a lot more educated than these people that are now writing Star Wars novels and comic books. I mean, when you have Chuck Wendig saying horrible things about Judge Kavanaugh and Republicans to the point where he gets fired from Marvel and doing the Vader series, that's a big fucking deal. All right, that's a big deal. And it's very interesting to me looking at all this and seeing how this is developed and thinking, look, okay, I get it. They have a lot of other things they have to worry about. Yes, it was a while ago, but his books are still there and they are still considered canon. And he is just an example, a very extreme example of the novelists that have been writing Star Wars since Kennedy took over. Okay, they weren't chosen because they're talented, chosen because they're well known. They weren't chosen because they could bring some really cool insights that are consistent with the franchise. They were brought in for one reason: to woke it the fuck up. Okay, and that's the truth. I mean, I tell you, when I think of somebody like Daniel Jose Older, whom I hate him, and I go, the only reason why you got to write these books is because you're Latino. That's it. And that is no reason to hire anybody. It's not. And furthermore, it's racist in of itself. All right? Because the guy didn't get there because of merit. He got there because of his last name and the color of his skin. All right, that's racist. I hate to tell you that. It doesn't sound like that, but it is. Because giving somebody a shot like that when they're not talented enough because of what they are not what they built isn't good for them. Okay? The best writers, the best artists are the ones that fought and struggled and threw love and passion and commitment into their creations. Okay? George Lucas made himself literally physically sick making the first Star Wars movie. Okay? Think about it. All right? I don't see Claudia Gray going without a good feed for 2 hours. All right? I don't see Justina Ireland doing that either. And I'll tell you one thing, after seeing what Beth Rivas, I don't see her doing that ever. I don't think she's ever. Look, she's one of those people where you look at her and go, have you ever actually eaten a salad? Okay? I mean, and look, I'm mean. I was told I was mean and was unreasonable yesterday on Twitter by somebody who was trying to defend that book that she wrote. And I am when these people who have absolutely no business writing for Star Wars because they don't care about it get in there and then shit all over it. Haha, Lord Thoth. Well, if you eat the burger and the lettuce and no bread, I think you could have cheese to make it keto, or get keto cheese. Yeah, I think cheese is all right. Like feta cheese. I think that would be fine. Okay. Did you guys hear this? There's a restaurant, a high-end restaurant in England who no longer will cater to vegans because of their holier than thou attitude. There you go. It's just it's remarkable to me, these novelists that have gotten breaks like this, that haven't written very good books, haven't done anything to forward the franchise in any way. They're just putting political statements out there, grooming. I would say Daniel Jose Older and Claudia Gray are two of the worst groomers on the planet. I mean, you've got a gay guy who's celibate and asexual. I'm still trying to, I just, every time I think of that, I go, basically talking to a teenage girl about Jedis and sexuality and stuff like that. And it's like, no. And it's a young kid's book. It's a young adult's book. Now, if the young adult was 20 years old, fine. It's, again, I still say a conversation like that does not belong in Star Wars. But if a kid who is 13, 14 years old reads it, let me tell you, quality of writing is very simplistic. I actually cracked open that book, Into the Dark, and looked at it, and it was written for an 8-year-old. I mean, it's not like when you crack open like The Winds of War, which is 800 pages that thick, and you're actually, gotta read it. It's like cracking. It's very simplistic writing. These novelists are not well versed in vocabulary or comprehension or any or a style that makes you think in subtext. Okay, which part of writing is subtext. I mean, you go into any comparative literature class, and 90% of it is, what did the writer really mean by that? Whether it's poetry or novels, okay? And let me tell you, when I was taking that class, and Professor Davidson basically demanded that we not read Dracula, that she wanted us to read Frankenstein, and the reason why is because Frankenstein was a better book. It's because it was written by a woman. And it's one of those things where, you have to write an essay about the piece of shit, and I hate that book. I hated that book. Part of it was the professors. Part of it was, everything about it just pissed me off. And you just gotta bullshit your way through. I mean, and stuff like that, you have to. But when you're reading it, it's all subtext. And it's all theorizing. What did Mary Shelley or her husband, who it has been a theory out there that he actually did write it, that he took it away from her and wrote it. Okay. What do they really mean by all this? And, you got this, oh, well, Mary Shelley's obviously Frankenstein. I'm like, how do we know? Did people really think like that back in the early 1800s? All right. You got to think that way. But the quality of writing and Into the Dark and Light of the Jedi or whatever else is garbage. You're not gonna sit there, 40 years from now, having people sit around in a college environment, debating what the novel really meant. Okay, But you've already got people 20 years after the fact debating what Revenge of the Sith was about. That's the quality of storytelling and writing. All right. I don't want to crack open a book about an adventure Han, Solo, and Lando Calrissian go out on, excuse me, and have Lando contemplating the size of his package before he goes to a party. I mean, an older knew the fans would bitch about that. Look, it is disrespectful. Oh yeah, she did. Karen Travis was great. It's disrespectful to the people who read it, disrespectful to George, the character, and Billy D. Williams. Okay? Look, I'm going to tell you something. This has been a theory of mine for a long time, but now I actually believe in it. I believe strongly that these authors are now just trolling people. All right? Because that, in of itself, about Lando, and the shit he put in there about Han, is a fuck you to the fans. And it was deliberately put in there. A middle finger to us from that little, tiny, balding, ugly little troll doll. Okay? And that's the truth. I mean, that's what it is. And, here's the deal. When you realize that, you're going to understand, if you're not angry, why other people are angry. And I'll tell you why I know it's a troll. Older laughed about what he got away with. Justina Ireland's racist rants against white people. Claudia Gray's obsession with sexuality. All right. The only two who have gone out of their way not to piss off the fans are Soul and Scott. And those two are literally so boring and so like there's nothing there. There's absolutely no. They're just, you could walk right past them and there's no personality. That they can't make a dent. Even if their stuff is good and is consistent, they can't make a dent in the anger people feel towards the other people. All right. And you got, G.K. Johnston in her feminist rants, and, even the lady that does Disney publishing, Jennifer Heddle, she's a fat ginger. All right. They're all just, I swear to God, all these women go out of their way to be unattractive people. They go out of their way to be ugly. She basically, I did a video on this when was it that those cartoons came out, those shorts, the adventures, whatever they were, and the one where Leia is being rescued by Luke. Heddle basically went off on Luke and screaming how much he hated him and that Leia should have hit him and, basically told him to fuck off or something. And it's like, and she got her ass kicked for it on Twitter and then acted like a victim. It's like, you can't sit there and attack a popular character like that, played by a ditz boy, Mark Hamill, but still popular actor, in such a misandrist, hateful way, and not expect to get your ass kicked, fat ass I might add, all over the internet. Okay, you can't do that. And I'm pretty sure that Older got his ass kicked too when he started laughing about what they got away with. I mean, again, this is nothing but a big troll. Okay, it is nothing but a fuck you to the fans. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because talk about the Han Solo origin story. A.C. Crispin. and was actually a Christian writer, came in there and wrote 3 books. And a lot of it was good. I would keep it. And a lot of it was a little over the top. But they're worlds better than what we got in Solo, a Star Wars story. They're loads better, okay, than we got in anything. Okay. Troy Denning. I said this in my uploads yesterday. I think I'm being shadow banned again. A couple I've hit the mark on a couple videos, well over 1,000 views, and then a couple have just been, yesterday's. I don't know what's going on. But Tatooine Ghost, Troy Denning, and I said this to Beth Rivas on Twitter. Men are more romantic than women, and they know how to write it better. I'm sure that made her, she probably went out and ate a whole cow, or a whole Black Forest cake. It's true. It is. I mean, when you read Tatooine Ghost and the thought process that went into it, and you see all the nuance, and you get into the subtext of what things really meant, it really is a great story. Same thing with The Courtship of Princess Leia. I'm not convinced of the whole book, but the premise is good, and the writing was better than, the garbage, simplistic, monotone, colorless crap that we get from. But anyway, I did want to say this, that I think that Marvel's ending their Queera run. I don't think we're ever going to see her again in live action. It just looks like that to me. I just saw, I think it was on Star Wars Direct, that it's the final is coming out. So in about 2 or 3 years, you too will be able to get those comic books at Ollie's for $4 a piece, not 18. Anyway, I've been on for almost 40 minutes. Really, there's nothing going on. Brian Stelter did get fired. Zaslav had enough. Lord of the Rings was sold, everything was sold to Embracer, which is a Swedish company, for like $2 billion. So, and She-Hulk just sounds like Mary Sue in Marvel. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna go, and you guys have a good afternoon. Anything happens, I'll be back. Steph, I'll see you around the galaxy. And remember, a tip for the Wookiees is a like, subscribe, share. I'll see you around the galaxy.